how I start. I can tell you how I start when I'm making stories, and then you can take it or leave it. I look at the characters that the players are wanting to play. I want the players to create the characters that they want to play, and then give me the characters and give me their backstories as well. Like, give me NPCs from your backstory. Tell me who your parents were and what sort of a relationship you have with your boss, and like, do you have a faction that you want to be a part of, like a crime organization or something? I don't know. Then once I've got all of the players' backstory, all the character backstories, I'll read through them and I will think, what is it that these characters are clearly wanting to play? Like, what is it that these players are clearly wanting to play with these characters? If they've given me a backstory that is like all about being an edgy thief that was like an urchin on the streets and then was taught to thief by this thieves guild, and then somebody at the thieves guild betrayed them, and so they took it out on the entire guild and like murdered a bunch of people, and then they were tracked down by this thieves guild and stuff. That's telling you information about the sort of story this person wants to tell with their character. You don't want to then put that character into like a uh, Care Bear world with like My Little Pony unicorns and stuff, because that's not the story that they're wanting to tell. They're wanting to tell the story of this edgy thief who wants to be on the run from the law all the time and looking over their shoulder against blah blah blah. So you're getting clues from their backstories that they have written as to the sorts of stories they want to tell with their characters. In your session zero with them, you should have also gone through that sort of stuff. Do you guys like to tell the story of like murder mysteries and film noir type stuff? When you're watching movies, do you like to watch action packed, like Michael, what's his face? Transformers guy. Michael, I'm blanking on his name because I'm so tired. Michael Bay. Um, Do you like action-packed explosions and the story's absolute nonsense, garbage, full of plot holes, but that's not what it's about? Do you like watching that stuff? Or do you like watching Christopher Nolan stuff that's really mind twisty? Or do you love like M. Night Shyamalan stuff that's like filled with twists and turns that you didn't expect, even if they don't fucking make sense at the end of the movie? Uh, you should talk about that stuff at a session zero so that you can get a feeling for what they want to play. On top of that, you're also getting characters from their backstory. If one of them says that they were betrayed by someone in the thieves guild and they never worked out who it was, that's the player telling you you can decide who that person was. That's like a gift they're giving you. That's like a big any question marks in their character backstories for you to go, "Ooh, how can I tie that in? How can I tie that in?" Because to me, it's really important that when you're telling a story, your characters in that game, the players at the table, feel like they're not just taken and plopped into an adventure that exists. That's one of the problems I have with modules. If you wanted to buy an off the shelf module to run for your characters, that's fine. But you should, even then, try and find a way to make it such that these characters are the ones that have to go on this quest. It can't be anybody else. It doesn't make sense for it to be anybody else. These characters have to do it because they are tied to the story in some way. They are intrinsically linked into the thing, and it has to be them. Even if the reason for that is it is incredibly urgent and you're the only ones here. Even if that's the reason, it needs like there needs to be a reason why it's you guys have to do this and nobody else. And the character backstories can help do that. So I will often look at the character backstories and go, oh, this person talked about their father, and this person talked about their father, and this person talked about their father. I'm going to link them together and have like a common goal of like these guys have all got together because they've got daddy issues essentially, and like their dads are all somehow linked into the story. Their dads are all part of this secret cult guild, and so that's why he disappeared from this guy's life, and that's why this guy took it like relocated his family when he was young, and whatever it is from their backstory, you can pick and draw on things and piece them together and weave them together and be like, oh, what if I actually make this person from this guy's backstory the same reason that this guy did this thing in the first place? Had to go without any excuse, any examples, but that's how I then start a story. Once I've then got the ideas percolating, I start with the end and I work forwards. That's how I tend to work. I start with who's the big bad evil guy going to be? What's the final fight of this whole campaign going to be? If it's a campaign that's going to require a fight, sometimes some campaigns don't. If it's more of a film, if it's more of a political drama kind of a campaign, you don't necessarily have to have a big bad evil guy fight at the end. But like, if there's gonna be a combat, like who's going to be that big bad evil guy? Who's going to be the end of Act Three? You can think about it in the hero's journey. If you're wanting to get into story writing, even just for DMing, I highly recommend looking into Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces. It's a story all about the hero's journey, and the hero's journey is a very famous way of telling a story that you can pretty much apply to any successful story that's ever been told. It's that it's always basically follows the same structure. Any adventure is like a call to adventure. The hero is reluctant to take up the call. They take up the call and they enter into this world that they don't know much about. They meet a mentor who's going to help them through the world in some way. They meet their first sort of challenge in the world and they fail. They learn from that challenge and they succeed. They learn about what the big plot is. They they find some other tutelage and succeed. They find something deep within themselves and succeed. They then succeed against the final fight, and then they go back to the world that they once knew, but now that they're changed or the world has changed or something, and it starts again. You can apply it to Star Wars. You can apply it to Harry Potter. You can apply it to Superman. You can apply it to fucking anything you want. So knowing that sort of stuff and the three act structure that stories take in general, like the first act is usually about setting up the characters and the story and what's the problem. The second act is about meeting those challenges and like what do we do in this thing, and then the next act is like the final act in a three act structure is usually like find the final challenge and overcoming that and returning home. Yeah. So knowing a bit about that is how to tell a good story. So that's why I start at the end and work back. Because if I am working on a hero's journey and I am working on a three act structure, I think what's that final fight? What's that final confrontation? What's that final lesson that the characters want to learn? And then how do I set that up? And what comes before that? If I want to get to that point with the characters where they finally reveal that all of their fathers have been part of this cult the whole time, what comes before that? And what comes before that? And what comes before that? And what can I set up right in the very first episode that will pay off right at the very last episode where they go, holy shit, you had this planned from the beginning, because that's how I like to play. Cool. Is that helpful? Is that useful advice? Hopefully so.
Wait. Before you go, hit the subscribe button, please. It costs you nothing to do, but it helps YouTube to know that I'm awesome. And everybody should know that I'm awesome. Thank you.